Up, vocal cords ready to go. Cool. Okay. Well, firstly, thank you everybody for joining us today. I appreciate we're coming into the festive period and also we're coming into tax season. So it's an extremely busy time for everybody. So to get this attendance and this many people coming in is huge. So it's testament to obviously nothing to do with me and Andy, but obviously getting Becca on the call. The purpose of the call or the webinar today, we wanted to get under the skin of Becca and BDO and essentially how they're working with both, well, ReceiptBank, Xavier and Futurely. So just to give you an overview, we Futurely partnered with ReceiptBank and then what became Xavier as well, probably about a year ago, because well, not one just because I worked with ReceiptBank before, but we actually truly see the value and the power of actually having the clean data and real-time data feeding through from ReceiptBank and ended up in Futurely to ensure that we can give the most accurate forecast and predictions as we can. So as I mentioned earlier, we're joined by Becca McClure from BDO. We're also joined by Andy Gleason from ReceiptBank as well. Becca, do you want to just give us a little bit about yourself first of all?
Hi everyone, my name's Becca McClure. I am actually current job is being on maternity leave, being mother to the famous Ned that we've been talking about, who's 5 months. I'm not coming back. Matt Flanagan was like, "Are you back?" Not back properly at work until March time. But agreed to do this webinar for everyone. I work at BDO with a focus on digital and transformation. I've been working with the whole app community. I've probably come across quite a lot of people for 6-7 years now. Not an accountant, more on the operational side, but love kind of working with accountants and seeing how we can do business better.
Cool, thank you. Andy?
Oh yeah, good afternoon everyone. So yes, I'm one of the senior account managers here at ReceiptBank. I've been working at ReceiptBank for almost 2 years now. I've been in and around the app community accounting software for about 12 years now. So with a passion for supporting accountancy firms in terms of transforming into digital and automation. So yeah, please reach out if you do have any further questions on that.
Cool. And thank you, Andy. Myself, so I've been working in professional services for, I think it's similar to Andy, I think it's 12 years. In fact, no, it's longer. I did just shy of 10 years in banking, a couple of years in the legal sector. Yeah, I'm nearly 16 years. 4 years working with ReceiptBank, and then my last year, or just over a year, working with Futurely. My roles predominantly have been business development and also working from a partnerships perspective. So I'm sure there's many on the call who've had the pleasure or displeasure of speaking to me in the past. But I know, we've been working closer with Becca for many years from a ReceiptBank and also from a Futurely perspective.
And we're all grateful for COVID with Sam because he can't hug us all.
I am known as a hugger. Yes, I am a hugger. Yes. So as I say, the purpose of this this session, we really want to probe Becca and understand, why the three solutions, why ReceiptBank, Xavier, and Futurely, and also, just to get an idea of where you've come from, where the business is now, and essentially where it's going as well. So if you're happy to share warts and all. And we will keep the Q&A open throughout the session. So if anybody wants to ask a question to any of us, just ping it in the chat box. And again, we will get moving, or you can put it in the Q&A, whichever you would prefer. So Becca, you'd mentioned then that you've been working in the app ecosystem the last 6-7 years. Talk us through, I guess, what's changed since the start of when you think about when you first started engaging, I presume, with the Xeros and the QuickBooks of the world. What's the key differences now from where we were? Obviously, there's a lot more apps in the space, but have you seen key differences between the accountants and also from the software vendors themselves?
I would say that one of the key differences from my side, especially at BDO, is that I haven't got to convince people about the why as much. So people are kind of like, they get cloud. So at the beginning, the whole conversation was, why do we go in the cloud? Was cloud safe? The cloud's all scary, etc. Now that's kind of hygiene, kind of putting things into like in a cloud accounting system's hygiene. I would say hopefully more people are doing things like be able to use kind of ReceiptBank and the like to be able to get the documents in, and document scanning, and that piece has become more hygiene. There's less convincing on that. And now people are looking at more of the kind of value add and the kind of app acceptance period, as I would say, with people has shortened a lot, which I think then just changes the communication quite a lot between us and the app partners. It's interesting. They've also, I think everybody's got a bit more sophisticated, so they're actually quite unforgiving too if an app doesn't do what it needs to do. And I think the industry's got a bit more sophisticated in actually be able to articulate what it wants. But yeah, I think I would say that is the fundamental kind of change. And people are actually wanting things now, going, oh, actually, is there an app for this, or is there an app for that, or how would, etc. And also they're a bit more experimental with how they use them, and maybe more willing to have kind of go, okay, well, that one that's not going to do this, but it will work for that, and chop and change. So that would be the fundamental difference for me. I remember when we first talked about ReceiptBank with our guys, there was somebody that stood up and went, oh, but why would I do that? Like, how am I going to train my people if a computer's doing it? And now they are getting more demanding. They want, okay, right, we want this, but we want it all like that. And that would probably be then the effect back on you guys going, okay, we want this, but can you do X, Y, and Z? Can you make sure, particularly with Xavier, as soon as we show them, we go, that's great, we love all of this. Can it do these other 5 checks? Right. And that, which is great. That's a brilliant conversation for us to be having on both sides.
And how have you seen that the conversation change with the client as well? You know, in terms of the delivery of these services, or is it what's the impact it's had on the client?
I think the clients are getting more demanding too, and expecting us to come with insights. I think they're aware. Both Xero and QuickBooks have been very good about their advertising campaigns about what can be done. So they are more aware of kind of what comes kind of out the box, and so you've got to start delivering. Like the whole world is digitalized now. Yeah. So, and people are far more demanding what they want at any time. But I still think there's a huge opportunity to be showing them insights. It's not like we're not at that point where everybody's going to getting free insights chucked at them the whole time that are actually useful. It's not like you know all the sophistication that you've got when you're kind of trying to watch television and people are telling you what you should watch now based on your browsing history or anything. So I think there's a huge opportunity for us to be kind of for accountants still to be out there and be one of the first people showing different tools, etc. And
to be completely topical, and I'm not going to say unprecedented, but I did say unprecedented then, you know, what impact have you seen? Granted, you're on maternity at the minute, but I know you're still engaging with the team and you're still having conversations on you. They want
to get rid of me. They're like, you sure?
it's like you're actually still working full time in some ways, because I know you're working closely with the team. Well, you know, what's the key? Was the panic setting in March? You know, from a business perspective, you know, or you know, also from a client perspective, or what's the general feeling?
From a large extent, I think it's been, on the business perspective, it's been quite smooth into, like, when I say that, I mean how we do business with our clients. I don't mean for the clients' businesses, but it's been quite smooth because we were using a lot of cloud tools. We were, you know, digitalized a lot of what we were doing. That was quite smooth. I think the difficult thing has been definitely people have engaged with things like needing proper forecasting tools, and and kind of more of the, as I say, more on that insight side. So I think that, yeah, we didn't sense a big kind of like business disruption when we went into it with kind of how we can service clients, and we kind of naturally transitioned into this kind of Zoom environment that we're all living in. But yeah, I think then how we provide value add and insights and pieces like that have has been probably a bit more of a transition for them. And where people might have been aware before of kind of Futurely, kind of some of the competitors too, like Spotlight, etc. They're now like, okay, well, how can we use them? This is definitely something maybe we need to be talking to our clients about. Oh, our clients have asked about this, etc. There's been more of a pull, I would say.
Interesting. And yeah, it's great to see that there's actually, I think, as unfortunate as everything is, and horrendous what has hit the whole globe, essentially, there is some amazing things that can come out of it. And back to that point, moving to that Zoom world, I think it has enabled us to be more efficient and actually engage in a much easier way, from a client perspective as well. I mean, I know from my banking days, asking one of the small businesses to come and see me in the branch, and taking 3 hours out of the day and having to go, pay for parking and so on out of their business was so impactful. Whereas now, you can quite easily, jump on a quick call with them, and they're in their environment as well, so you can see them in their working environment as well.
And I think any kind of client that maybe was dragging their feet with not wanting to go into cloud and etc. has been sold now. Yeah, they've seen it, they've seen the value, and I would say that's probably, and like I would say this is, I think I've used it before, like what's had the biggest impact on digital transformation, like COVID and just being forced to be like this, and agile working, all the things that people may like, for change management perspective, you might have been really struggled to do. This is kind of forced it over, and on the client side too. And I think what was interesting too, when we were coming out of, when we came out of the first kind of lockdown, and a lot of people were approaching us to go, okay, we didn't necessarily have all of our, our systems optimized and digitalized but before. How can we now do this? So our kind of team that does more app advisory and implementations got very busy with kind of looking at how people, because they needed to have, if all their information was relying on somebody being in an office and be able to pull it together, then it wasn't going to work. So yeah, kind of having the kind of data and the insights right now, so they can see what's going on, and having them as automated as possible was really, really important.
Fantastic. And thinking about, look at the size of BDO, and you've obviously got a huge client base, and you've got so many different offices. There's going to be different influences from different offices. And there's over 1,000 different apps out on the marketplace right now, which is scary. How did you make your decisions? How did you set upon, well, from our perspective, ReceiptBank, Xavier, and Futurely? Where of that, what was the decision-making process from that perspective?
So there's been, like, we've had a number of years of experience with ReceiptBank and Futurely, and other ones. I think actually, although there's 1,000, there's actually quite a small group of like core ones. You've got 1,000. When you look at them too, you've got all your industry apps that fit for different clients, and we've have quite a big app ecosystem when you start going into those. When you look at core, which is where I think all these apps sit in, going, these are our core apps about how we're going to service the whole of our client base, regardless of the industry, etc. It was absolutely, as I said earlier, hygiene for us that we would be getting the information in as quickly and as automated as possible. So having ReceiptBank there was going to be there. We were talking to ReceiptBank right from early days, and I've had a long relationship with them. As I said, the kind of relationships now going where people our guys are going, well, we want this, we want that. I think it's a far more sophisticated relationship now that we have both ways. I might have some of the guys from ReceiptBank going, no, Becca, that's known for being demanding. So that's, and again, on the information out, like, I think, again, it's been a battleground, the information out of both sides actually, but I think ReceiptBank has been more than forerunner. The information out has been a bit of a battleground with where things are going. It has been key to work with people that are going to work with us to be able to provide the insights that we're kind of needing to provide to our clients. So I think everybody's been trying to get to this, particularly with the COVID piece with cash flow. And finding a nirvana with cash flow and how you do cash flow forecasting. Some people have gone really short term, some people have gone really complex. I know with what we've got now in Futurely, you've got a bit of a hybrid of the two, which is perfect, because sometimes you were talking to the business about something that's, they want to know something immediately, and sometimes they're going to be wanting to look more further on. So it's been about, so on those, it's kind of, I suppose it's a different decision depending on the app. Xavier came in, and I think everybody knows that I would say that it was definitely my app of the year when it came in. Very thankful for Matt Flanagan to putting us in touch. That came from a different angle from everything else. Because, and I tell you, that has been the most easily accepted app that I've ever had with the accountants, because what that does is it makes the job of understanding what's going on and what the data's doing and what the cloud accounting system and what ReceiptBank's doing. Sorry, Siri's getting a bit butting in. It's highlighting the errors or highlighting where the issues are that you've got to look at. So it's taking out the lack of trust that they might have in certain things. So and exposing it really, really visually and in front of them. So it's been so for instance, duplicate transactions, that is everybody's, we did a survey recently, everybody's favorite piece, because they just want, and I think of the bit of resistance that we might have had with, say, ReceiptBank was, but how do we trust it? How do we know things are going through, etc.? So there was still a lot of manual work going in to just look at things. When you get something like a Xavier on top, then they're like, well, actually, well, that's taken that out. I can trust in this more because I've got another tool that's going to highlight where the issues are. So that has been really great. So it's a bit of a different decision in each case, and as I said, certainly it's like watching kind of little race, I suppose, with some of them about who's going to get forward first with some of the functionality. But you need to stay close to everybody to really understand, as well as the market, to really understand who is going to service your clients the best at that point.
Yeah, I think it's a valid point there, and I think one of the things that we find really important is being upfront and honest with the accounting firms we work with. Like we have a public roadmap now. Anyone can view it on Trello, they can vote on it, and I think by giving the visibility of where you're going as a business, that can then help people understand and invest in you. And I guess it works the same for an accounting firm, doesn't it? If you're being upfront and honest with your clients and saying this is where we're going as a business, do you want to come along for the ride, or it's understanding whether it's right for you or not, isn't it? And and it's exactly that, I guess.
Yeah, and I think that's the I'm going to lose my point now. That was my other. I should have given another health warning. Going, my brain, baby brain, the struggle is real. No, carry on, Sam. It'll come back to me.
Becca, it doesn't change that. I think that's just age, and 2 children in. I can tell you that just happens. So don't worry, it's not. I
knew it happened before, but now I've got a really good excuse.
Yeah, it's not alcohol anymore. That's the only thing.
It might be that as well.
Okay, maybe. Andy, any questions from you? Any things you wanted to?
Yeah, so I think, like as I said, Becca, you've used ReceiptBank and Futurely for quite a while now, and Xavier is obviously the new app that's kind of come in. I'd be really interested to know kind of using the three together, how have they kind of improved the internal processes and the efficiency of the team?
Yeah, so I think so. Taking ReceiptBank straight away, like that, just chomps up time in terms of people not manually entering. And I think the battle that I've had kind of in more recent years, it's about getting people to use more of the kind of auto-publish kind of functionality. But that, and I kind of alluded to it already. So I think people, the why on doing that, I think people are kind of getting over now, and it's quite established. They are wanting maybe kind of the journey there is them wanting them to be able to automate more things like rent statements, etc., etc. Yeah. So there's that's kind of like established. Where Xavier's been and where Xavier's really added, it's like a crucial piece, I think, in the middle, is that it will completely validate the data. So you have the trust in the data that's coming in, that it's going to, if you do all the health checks and pieces like that, that it's going to that it's actually right, because there's no point putting data that's rubbish into something like Futurely or something, or anything else, because you're not going to get the right insights. There's no point having a cash flow forecast that's based on nonsense in. So I think if you've got your data coming in and ticking over and all kind of like hopefully auto publishing as much as possible, really getting the accountant then to start engaging at the kind of Xavier end, doing more exception stuff rather than all the regular stuff, adding value there, and then really, and that's the internal piece. We've also using one of the other battles, and there is a battle at BDO because of the multi officers, is consistent procedures. So we've used the focus and the flows there to build workflow and make sure that people are doing those checks. So when it comes to month-end process, or it comes to VAT returns, they are going through and doing everything that we want, and we're getting a bit more security and assurance on that side. So that's great. And then when you're coming to then looking at the information out and adding the real value to the client by saying, giving them the insights that they need, it's like Futurely, then that's there too. So I think it's working really well. Interestingly too, Sam was showing me what some of the information they're looking at that Futurely are now pulling out. I think it will also start that actually Futurely, again, if you've got all of that piece working well, then I think one of the big struggles that we have is knowing which of the clients that are definitely struggling, because they might not be talking to us about it. They might not realize it themselves, or they might not be talking to us about it. And we need to be more proactive about picking up the phone and just going, look, we can see you might be struggling. Can we help you a bit more? And that you're doing some insights now, aren't you, Sam, that, looking at portfolio analysis and saying, these are the clients that might be struggling more. Yeah. Which I think is also really going to be invaluable to us with supporting clients going forward. Do you want to say?
Sorry?
Did you want to elaborate on that? Sam?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so we, I guess if you take Xavier, I always get told it's called Xavier the Savior. So that's the way I've got to pronounce it, because everyone says it differently. If you take Xavier in terms of the dashboard and essentially what's telling you what's missing from a data perspective, I guess in a similar format, we're going to be where we show you. In fact, I can show you now if you want. If anyone is anyone interested, if they're not, I'm going to show you anyway because it's my webinar. This wasn't planned, but I think it's worth just touching on this. So what we recognize, as as Becca said there, clients might tell you they're okay, but actually, if you drown silently. It makes me cringe.
And I think the other key thing, Sam, is that all of the accountants are so busy, and like everybody is busy and battling on multi levels, maybe has a child around too, etc. And it's working out, okay, well, where am I best investing time?
Surfacing that information for you is kind of what's needed, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think again, a lot of firms I'm speaking to are saying, well, we're forecasting a 10% loss in revenue this year, and I was like, and what you forecasting that, but do you know that that's correct? It might be 5, it might be 15, we don't know. So yeah, we've reacted to the market, and as part of Predict, which we launched back in September, we have this risk assessment. So what we're actually saying is, give us access to your portfolio with QuickBooks and Xero clients. We will basically, we will go in as an admin, add all of them to Predict, and then we will run through and essentially run through all of these data points for each of the clients. So you can see there's a load of information that we're pulling based on future trends within the business and what's happening now, but also what's coming within the business, to see whether they are a risk or not. We will then present back to you as a firm to show whether they're medium, high, or a risk or an opportunity. And you'll see here we've got two. We're assessing the next 6 months. So we've got whether the cash flow risk and also we've got health score as well as a business themselves.
Yeah, as opposed to the health score you got in Xavier, which is about the health of the data, I suppose.
Exactly.
There are some good business resilience pieces in Xavier too, but I think this adds on top of it.
Yeah, and it's there to complement. It's actually saying, where we are at this point in time, but now this is actually looking at what the future holds, and will that business survive? Will I see through Christmas? But actually not just looking at it from a risk perspective, but actually then start looking at it from an opportunity perspective. There's ones within here. Actually, there's some real big opportunities. Client 14, I think it was, where I just looked there. There's decent cash in the bank. There's the sales are coming through. Actually, this is one that we can start looking at other project work for them and start building, not just about the risk and the worry of it, but actually what can we do for that business moving forward as well.
But most of your, and this is the kind of, I'll categorize my data in a minute, but some of your risks are turning into some of your biggest opportunities, because if you're able to talk to that business and go, look, you can see you're struggling, and not see it as a point of view of going, oh no, we're going to lose you as a client, but to go, how can we help you? Like, I'm not talking about absolutely, bleeding somebody dry when they're struggling here. I'm talking about how can you support. They will become then your strongest clients going forward if you can help them now. Yeah. And it might be something quite simple that you can suggest to them to help them. Yeah. I would say that I think you've got. I was talking to somebody the other day. You've got buckets of data, and I'm going to forget all the categories that I put them in. You've got your data about. You've got your data about actually how you work, how you are working, and are you doing a good job as accountants, or so looking at, and this is something really small, but working in a bigger organization with Xavier, we're able to quite quickly be able to help me kind of see what the data was per different office or different group, and you can have tags, etc., and that helps actually just segment. But something that we really struggled with until now, going, okay, well, actually, what is the health of all my clients? How are things, like looking at the kind of the data that we need to be able to make sure that we're working as efficiently as possible. And that's some data that's really invaluable. That, and then kind of looking at the data on our clients and the insights on our clients to help us then advise them, and then maybe the data that you put out to the client. So there's kind of like three buckets of it. It's kind of like, are we doing a good job? Are we working well? What's our client portfolio looking like, and which ones should we be helping with, and where the opportunities are? And then there's the insights that you actually present to your client. And I think kind of anybody that's able to help with that, like kind of ReceiptBank very, very early on with having their dashboard showing kind of what the account is actually doing, kind of pulling all of that information is going to be utterly key for all of the apps going forward, and they can only improve on it and keep improving on it in my book.
Yeah, I think you're right as well. And if we take take the clients out for a second and think just about accountants, you're trained to find faults. That's kind of that, or and find a problem and fix it. So we want to ensure, as software companies, to support you, we need to give you as much data and and trust that data. That's why things like in Predict we did this number explained. So it's not we've not just made up this number and predicted it forward. It's a case of exactly why that number exists. Because sales trends have increased, we see that it's going to be it's going to increase by 3% or whatever it may be. It's about then giving you the confidence, because we know you have the confidence, but to then deliver that to your team of 50, 100, whatever, you have, within your teams is difficult. And if the products can help you, help them understand and see the value.
You don't want to be made to look stupid, do you? If you have that number come, I don't know.
Yeah.
So you really want to understand, and that's what the training's been there to, that's what you've been trained to do, as you say, spot faults and really understand the numbers and be able to explain that to clients. I think it's really, really important to have that. I would say the other piece that's really crucial is you also want to make sure when you're taking on a new client that you're taking on a client that you want, and that you're pricing it right. So what we would do now is put Xavier on there quite early, as part of the kind of early kind of quoting process, if they will allow it, we ask the client's permission. We can see what the state of the books are. And especially if we're not doing the bookkeeping, but they want a cash flow forecast or something like, insights on the data, that would be the first thing that we might look at and go, actually, well, we can give you it, but your data's not in the best possible position at the moment. So actually, is there some work that we can do with you to help you with that and help you with your processes? The other app that I'll give a shout out to that I think really helps at the moment in this whole thing, which I think there's a partnership with too, is something like an Approval Max, because that whole risk assurance piece is really important, especially when we're working like we are at the moment. So
another question from me, Becca. So I think with these, I think there's a tendency to look at the apps and kind of how are we going to recharge these apps and things like that. How did you, and especially with Xavier, I suppose, because you probably wouldn't look at it as a product that you would recharge. How did you, or how do you justify the commercial commitments for these apps and kind of ensure that you're getting value for your subscription? Because obviously it is a financial outlay, but how do you justify that within the business, within BDO?
So we don't charge on for ReceiptBank or Xavier unless we're actually selling that into the client as such, and they're going to be using it and they're doing their own bookkeeping. For me, they are saving time, and I can tell how much, and we can do an easy calculation of seeing how much time is saved in things. But the saving time and more that they're actually giving us assurance, and I think we're getting an increasingly kind of risky environment, like especially at the moment. We're not sitting side by side with somebody. You want to see what's going on. You want to know that how they're working, etc. So for Xavier particularly, for me, it was. And I know everybody will say, "Oh, when you're BDO, your big pockets." Well, it is, but trying to get something through a BDO approval process, I would say part of, like, there's more red tape and justification than anything else. But also, I think for everyone, everybody's short on time, and time is the biggest kind of thing. That is what we charge to clients generally, in whatever way, shape, or form. We're charging our time. So if I can save an hour of somebody's time, it's going to, by using an app that's like £2-3 a month, then it's a no-brainer. Yeah. And I'm not going to go as an industry of kind of, I find sometimes you go an industry and trying to on charge to clients, and you just package it part of a bundle, and the client doesn't need to know. So, saying it's the same as the zero license. Not necessarily charge them for that, QuickBooks or whatever provider you want to have for your system. And I know that people will say, well, then also the cost of kind of like adding more and more on, it gets really expensive, and undoubtedly it does by the time you have things. But I think you need to see it different. I think the cost of some of our software licenses in the past were really quite expensive per thing, and there's a huge opportunity cost in all this, that if you're not doing some of this, then you are going to be sometimes busy fools, and then not be able to go out and then support clients, and I do think that going forward, I think we're at a tipping point. And if you look at kind of you look at some of the other countries like New Zealand that this has all been embedded in for much longer, they are far more demanding about what they want from accountants and what they want to see. And I think our clients are only going to get like that. And if we're all sitting there trying to be doing the whole time and not kind of using the apps and paying, then we are going to lose clients, which again is another cost. So I think you need to look at things as a total cost kind of piece, kind of going at time, what would it cost, like that whole thing about onboarding a client. So we've turned away people because of the strength of putting Xavier on there and realizing what a state their books are. We're like, actually, it will cost you this much to be onboarded because that is how much it's going to take to make your books decent. And if we've lost the client, then that's been fine, because again, you don't want to take something on and charge them like 200, 500 quid or whatever to onboard them, and actually it be kind of a whole week, 2 weeks of somebody's time to get it in a state that you can actually start delivering the service that you promised to do. So it's kind of a total cost kind of point of view.
So you're looking at, to summarize, you're looking at ReceiptBank and Xavier to save the time, and then
mutually to then add the value, and that's where you and to a certain extent that's where you can start charging. You might actually even charge for an app because they're seeing the value, and that's something that they're seeing quite tangibly doing something. And that, I think, is increasingly where people are going to be wanting to be serviced as such.
Yeah. And I'm going to put you on the spot here, because I'm aware, obviously, you've familiarised yourself with Predict, which is the new product that I probably have mentioned, and you've seen as I mentioned. But we have 3 products out in the market now, which you've worked with Advisor for some years, which is kind of the meatier board packs and report packs and so on. You've embedded Flow as well, haven't you? From a supplier management piece, and then obviously there's Predict as well.
Yeah.
How do you make that decision as to which solution fits which client, or is it a hybrid of the 3?
It'll be a hybrid, and it might be there's more than one depending on where the client goes. So the client, there's always I suppose that they can start adding to a so what. So you do your cash flow forecast in Predict, and you're looking at things, and the cash flow is not looking so great. Okay, so what? How can we help you on the supplier side? Well, let's go and have a look at what we can do, and go into Flow, and then be able to see that. And then, actually, how can we help you kind of have the information that you need, your fingertips going forward? Well, we'll go into Advisor and stuff. So I think we need to become far more sophisticated in having the conversation and understanding the why of each app, so that you can pull them out when you're talking and you can easily go through it. I think in the past we might have gone in and gone, okay, I know in my head that I'm definitely going to, it's almost been like we've been selling an app. We're not there to sell an app, we're there to help a client. And as you're helping the client, you need to be able to have, it's like having tools in your tool belt going, okay, so I went in there and I thought I needed a spanner.
Yeah.
And actually I'm going to need, I've looked at it, I've diagnosed it, and actually I'm going to need these other 3 things too.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of it, and it's more of a diagnostic approach, and not going in going spanner, and all I can think about is spanner. Yeah. That's how I was explaining it to some of our people before we went off. And I think if that's kind of the mindset that you need to get, almost like that decision tree to then help you. But I think there's easily, if you're having an ongoing relationship with the client, not doing one piece of work, and that one piece of work could lead to that ongoing relationship, you're probably going to be then dipping in and out different ones of those as you go through the life cycle, depending on what problem you're solving for them at any one point.
Yeah, I think, to paraphrase Matt Flanagan again, he said, the small business doesn't care what app you're using or what color it is or anything. They don't care what the name is. It's about will it do what I need it to do? Will it give me, will it save me time? Will it help me know where my business is going? What, all of these things, that's all they want to know. Someone said to me the other day, said, and we get this question a lot, which customers are suitable for cash flow forecasting, and or which ones are buying cash flow forecasting? It's like, clients don't know they need cash flow forecasting. It's down to you to show them the value of it and actually what the tools can do. They don't know the terminology or anything. That's something that we've created as an industry. It's about actually, I want to show you and help you, understand your numbers, get those numbers in a real-time fashion, and then show you what those numbers really mean and what that, how that impacts your business. It's just getting away, like you say, you're not software sales people. We'll do that. We'll do that job.
I've seen that there's a Q&A that's come in because I'm aware of time. Saying, shall I answer it on behalf of the app?
Yes, that's fine. I was going to say we're pretty much. I was going to call Q&A around.
Sorry.
So no, we're there. So yeah.
I thought it said, is Xavier planning on adding integrations to QBO or other cloud accounting platforms now? QBO is coming, isn't it, Andy?
It is, yes. So we are. So Xavier was a Xero-only product when designed, but yes, we are planning or developing it now. So hopefully we should have the launch of QBO integration Q1 next year, and then the long-term development is for Xavier to be agnostic as ReceiptBank is, and be able to integrate with all of the cloud accounting products that are out there. But it is some quite heavy development work that needs to be done for each one. But the next one is QBO, which we're hoping for the early part of next year.
And somebody in my firm, who shall remain nameless because he doesn't need to become more famous than he thinks he is already, has described it as kind of, then you need your apps to act. So it's kind of like a chassis on an engine. So it doesn't matter what engine you put underneath it, like QuickBooks or Xero, etc. If you've got, and that's when you get your app literacy with all your people good at, then they can put it on at whatever, and you can service a client in the same way. And I think that really does help.
So we won't mention that it's Mark Sykes and give him the credit for that, will we? No, we'll edit that bit out, won't we, Becca?
Yeah, thanks.
So yeah, that, I guess we've answered the first question. Now I guess if we can open up the floor, and the floodgates open for everybody to ask questions. If you have anything, for me, Andy, Becca, could be, asking about Ned, whatever you want to ask, please do drop the questions in, and we will answer them. I'll try to anyway. Just whilst we're doing that, because we're clearly people are typing away, obviously. One of the questions that we had, or one of the things that we were thinking about is, what implementation advice would you give a firm considering implementing ReceiptBank, Xavier, or Futurely?
Implementation advice. I think that there's always value on having the best possible advocates for this are getting some people that are champion them. So instead of going kind of with every single person and going like, let's try and do a big program, I always start small, get a few champions, then get them to champion it through the rest of the organization, get some really good case studies under your belt, get people to really then understand, use them as a test base too, what works, what doesn't work, so that when you then put that into the rest of the firm, you can understand what it's going to do and how it's going to do it. And it's always really, really, really important to get you. I've forgotten again. It's gone. I've got things going on the side of the screen too. I've put the questions away.
Yeah, hide the questions. We'll ask the questions. Don't worry. You ignore that bit.
Because anything that kind of distracts me is bad. It's like squirrel.
No, that's fine. I think we got the gist of that. Yeah, it's about actually scaling it and picking the right people to be on board with it. Get the advocates. Then in time, people will buy into.
And then they solve the problems. That's the other piece. They get them to solve some of the problems and work your workarounds before everybody then becomes it, because people are quite unforgiving.
Okay. So we have some further questions. So Haley has asked, what size business revenue do you have to be to use these three systems?
I don't think there is a.
There isn't
a size.
No.
Is there?
As long as you have, from our perspective, as long as you have at least one client, and for a zero QuickBooks integration, then or you can actually use Advisor from an export perspective. But yes, it's same with every app, isn't it? Kind of, as long as you've got a client, then fine, you can use it.
Yes, yeah, exactly that. We know of kind of smaller firms, sole practitioners that may only have kind of 10 clients in their portfolio that are using all three apps alongside their cloud accounting software.
We've got Wayne. How do you charge for correcting poor client data? Do you give it away for free or charge the client for doing the work?
We charge them. Yeah, and that's the beauty of something like Xavier. You can actually show them quite easily that this is the state of your books, and this is it's kind of almost quite factual to be able to see it, and then see what the issues are. And this is then, you're not going to get decent anything else out of this data until we do the work, and then we can say this is kind of like the time cost for it. But I think it's really important that we don't undervalue what we do. And so we would always charge a setup fee, and quite often there's always an opportunity. I can see something about monetizing, about helping them and supporting them too, with just how their processes and what their workflow. If we're not taking the client on to do the bookkeeping necessarily, we can charge them for training. Yeah. People will pay for somebody to come and just to help their staff really understand what they should be using it, help them with documenting workflows, make sure they've got best in class, like the app advisory pieces, making sure they've got something like approval max in there, etc. So I think there's we've never struggled there if we can show them what the issue is and also why that's an issue for them.
Yeah, you're right.
I think the point on that, Becca, is that you can also export that health score as a report, so you can you can show it to the client and validate that charge. You can show them where the problems are and where the challenges are, and so when you kind of present the fees for it, they understand why they're being charged.
Yeah.
Cool. So Haley again, if a small business, e.g. revenue up to 1 million, adopts these systems, would it be the FC, I presume financial controller, that would manage these or others?
It probably slightly depends. If the business is adopting them, it would depend on the user case. It would depend on each one. So you might have the FC might be looking at, you probably have somebody more junior that's doing the ReceiptBank element and churning the paperwork in and maybe keeping an eye on that. You might have like something like the MD or the CEO looking at the futurely kind of analysis. And then the FC is able to look at all of the data analytics that's sitting over the top of them. So I don't think they're necessarily using them, but they're probably just wanting, there's kind of easy things in each of them to go, is this being done well, efficiently, as we were saying earlier? And then to be able, we'll then be working with something like the futurely to get the information structured in such a way that then it's going to add value to the board or the CEO or the business owner.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you say, it's whoever's the job's relevant to, isn't it? Anonymous on this one. Do you need permission for clients to integrate apps such as ReceiptBank or Xavier to Xero or QBO from GDPR or Legal Point?
Yeah, we would always get apps permission to access the data, so we would never just add. So we always ask. I think it's. From GDPR perspective, it depends what's in your Xero, isn't it? Because it's about personal data. There might be, if there's payroll data or anything in there, you don't want to run the risk of it, to be honest. So I would always go for a kind of a risk-averse approach of getting permission before you use them.
Paul has asked, let's assume you have RB and Xavier and delivering good quality data. Other than the obvious cash flow forecasting, what are the panel's thoughts on ways of monetization of this data?
So I touched on some of them. So you can, well, that was if the data isn't good quality, to be honest. That was more the training, the workflow. There's huge amounts now. I think everybody undervalues kind of the knowledge that they have. So there's a huge amount you could do. Working capital advisory, like as we said, kind of using like Flow to really help them understand, kind of understand their supply chain and how they can protect that. There's helping them, we've talked about in the past, which Mark's talked about a lot, doing kind of like more resilience workshops with them, sitting them down and making them understand something like Brexit's coming up. How can you help? And people will pay for that. I think we give away too much for free, and you just need to think how you package up things. Other pieces. I think things like benchmarking and things like that is going to come out too before.
We see with Xavier, we see people offering credit control services off the back of that.
Yeah,
implementing something like Chaser or something like that, because they can see that people are struggling with
and all of that. And RB and Xavier is a really small part of the data journey. You know, if depending on what industry they're in, there's all the other information. Like how can we get other information in there to really give you a full picture of your business? So you might be using like an unleashed or a released or a, you know, et cetera, depending on your industry.
Yeah, that's right. Like you say, it's the start of the journey. You know, and to Andy's point, you know, you can even, you know, within Predict and Flow, you can even use it from a credit control perspective, because you can see, you know, what your essentially your debtor days are. You can see, you know, how dependent you are on as a, you know, supplier and a customer and so on. So there's all sorts of things, as you say, and it's just about showing that value, isn't it? And that's what the tools are there for. It's showing the value. You know, when you're delivering it, you're delivering with confidence first of all, but actually showing the value that it can bring. And they're never going to question the price or the cost if they truly get it and they truly understand. Yes, yeah. There's just
the advisory piece, I think, is huge too. And I don't think, and I know I'm going to sound a bit like Matt Flanagan saying. People,
I keep waiting for you to just pull that mask off and have Matt under there. Yeah, that badly drawn boy look that he has underneath. But if anyone knows who badly drawn boy is, there you go. A couple of questions. Haley just asked, is the recording? Yes, I will be following up with an email to everybody with the recording as well, and also put all the links as well for our products within there. We have another couple of anonymous. In terms of moving to a reporting system like Futurely, is it advisable to use Xavier in advance of this?
Yeah, I go back to it, like crap in, crap out, basically. And so you need to have something that's going to show you that your data is in good order to be able to kind of get decent insights, decent cash flow forecasts, whatever it is that you're looking for something like Futurely to do.
Yeah, I will add to that as well. With the portfolio assessment that I just showed briefly earlier, it does touch on some points like unreconciled items, and that will be a feature that's going to be within Predict fairly soon as well. From a zero perspective, you'll be able to see what's unreconciled. So you can go back in and understand and make sure, yeah, it's as close. So yeah, there is some crossover there, but absolutely, you know, Xavier is going to help you with understanding that business.
It's about data confidence, isn't it? Like you say, Becca, it's like knowing that the data that you're putting into Futurely is going to surface correct and analyze correctly for you. So then the advice that you're giving back to your client is accurate.
Yeah, and that's where this partnership existed. You know, it was an obvious relationship from that perspective. Yeah. Another anonymous, maybe the same person, who knows? If you have a client that's historically been just compliance, how do you kickstart them into an advisory, essentially asking them to pay more money than they are used to? You want me to answer that, or you, Becca? I'll let you answer that first.
No, you can answer it first if you want.
So that's exactly why we built that portfolio assessment. because the portfolio assessment recognises whether there is a need and a requirement. I mean, yes, you could argue every client wants to see where they're going, where their business is ending up. But actually, the ones that have a need instantly, if you can, we've recognised that need, like Xavier would do from missing data and things. We recognise where that need is, and then if you are presenting them genuinely something that is not just saying, we think you need this because we're selling cash flow forecasting. We think we know you need this actually, because we can see, cash in bank is going to be, or we're going to run out of money in 6 weeks time, or this, your sales are on a decline. We can see there's something has happened here. So that's, for us, that's the purpose of that portfolio assessment, is to find out and whittle out which ones do need it instantly.
You want an informed conversation. If you pick up the phone and just going, oh, I want to sell you an it, then they're going to see through it, and they're probably not going to see the value. If you are picking up the phone and going, look, making it really personalized, I can see that you're, whatever, there's a trend there. Is that something I can help you with? And you might be doing a tiny bit at the beginning pro bono to go, to help them kind of just see the why, see the value. And then once they've seen that, then you probably be able to flip it. But I think you do need something to help you, which from what, looking at what Predict's doing and that risk assessment's doing, you do need something to really point to you about where, otherwise you might be having lots of empty conversations. I would say too, you need to be people that, even if they're a compliance client, we need to be close to our clients. We need to be picking up the phone to them at least once a month and working out. And kind of COVID has been the perfect excuse for that, because we're living in strange times, and we've got Brexit coming up. That's another huge business. Yay. So we can, these are times where you can pick up and go, okay, this is coming. Is there anything we can help you with? And not necessarily have a sales conversation, have a supportive conversation, and then it might, if we can convince them of the value and we can give them some insights that they didn't necessarily see, then it becomes a much easier answer.
Looks like it'll be the final question from Wayne. What would you class as a bad score in Xavier? The point at which you would contact the client, or you just regularly contact your clients with scores anyway?
You want me to take that one, Becca?
Yeah, go for it.
I think I would probably reverse it and kind of look at what is a good score. So we would say a good score in Xavier is over 80. And so anything under that was probably is a set of books that would need work on. I think once you've got the books to that 80 score, it gives confidence in that data. So whether that's a bookkeeper handing the data over to the accountant, or whether you're putting that data into Futurely, that once you're kind of over 80, you're pretty accurate, and you've got a clean set of books there. Anything under that would need work. If we're talking about if we get a set of books that are 50, then and again, if it's from a client perspective, that's when you're going to be kind of talking about chargeable, because that's going to take time to tidy up and clean up. And I think just the second part of that, to Becca's point, is just about speaking to your clients on a regular basis anyway. So the more consistently you're speaking to them, it will just become part of the normal conversation that you have with them.
Yeah, and I guess clients, you don't want it, and your clients don't want a call when it's just nagging. They want it to be an informed conversation, a friendly but informed conversation. And I think that's the key, isn't it? The regular contact will eradicate all of those. Can you send this invoice? Can you send me this? This is bad. This is that. It's once you've recognized there's potential problems, you can work on it and get them to where they need to be. Any final thoughts from Becca or from Andy, other than have a nice Christmas? Is there anything anyone wanted to add?
Where is my child? No, I would just say, I think, as we said, I think the value comes now at looking at how apps can fit together and how they can add value to each other, and not just seeing each one as an individual choice. And so I think this is really important. I think the more apps, my plea to the app community is, the more you can form partnerships, the more you can see how you can impact each other, I think the better. And I think then from our perspective and the accountant's side, yeah, we don't want to have lots of additive costs of having a whole, a really expensive chassis that you're putting over your engine. But if you've got some nice knitted together pieces that are really going to make doing business easy, and then the value really easy to add on to the client, then that's going to be invaluable to us, and it then more than makes up for the cost.
Andy, anything from your side?
No, I kind of just echo that. I think that it's about the fact that the three apps are complementary of each other. I think that, yes, you will get value from using any one of them on a standalone, but the three together will complement and provide kind of real value, deliver inefficiencies and kind of support you in that way. So I think that would be my final message.
Cool. I think the one thing I'll add to that, obviously echoing what you guys said, but also if there's ever a time to act, it's now. And I know I sound like I'm some kind of politician here and giving you some kind of speech, I'm not going to fight them on the beach.
You look quite like Trump.
Thanks for that, Becca. Cheers. We were good friends until this. No, but genuinely, I do think that now is the time to act. We're going into 2021, which we've had an horrendous year. We've all, rode the storm, and genuinely, spirits are still high, but 2021, there's not going to be, it's not all going to be roses. There's going to be, obviously, we've got Brexit, you say, CBILS and bounce backs have just kind of pushed the problem. Furlough has, to March, essentially. Now is the time to be assessing your whole portfolio, understanding where they are, and where you can take them, and genuinely hold their hand and use the technology, use what's there and what's available to you. It's not expensive, when you look at what it can actually save you, but also then what it can do to your clients, but also what it can generate as well off the back of it. But yeah, genuinely, I know tax season is coming up, but set someone on the project aside to it, genuinely, I think to start your plans for 2021 with the three solutions would be huge. Okay. All right. Well, I will call it there. As I say, we will share this. I'll get an email out later today with the video recording and also contact details if anybody wants to speak to us offline.
Shave the first 15 minutes off, Sam.
Yeah, I'll get rid of the first 15 minutes of us talking rubbish, or not. Well, yeah, off.
Even worse rubbish than the rubbish that came afterwards. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly. And then we'll. But yeah, just thank you both for joining and everybody for dialing in as well. And have a lovely Christmas and New Year, which sounds weird.
Okay.
Thank you. Merry Christmas.
Okay. Bye bye.